I realized, oh man, I actually hate life. And that was the first time I had that realization that there was this deep anger within me that was being brought to the surface. And really, I was the only one that was going to be able to change that. So that was the moment I sort of moved from victim to then, how am I going to create a different life? And yeah, and then I started to make some changes and I continued to evolve. And I still continue to evolve, and that's why I do the work that I do now because I've been on the journey. I've been there, before it was an excuse, and now it's just an opportunity for to be a creator and create. I believe, anyone can have a life that they love if they choose that. So I
Mhm.
really try and empower and encourage women to step into their bodies and to start trusting themselves, even if they've never done it before.
Welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered, where we go beyond the diagnosis and start listening to the deeper messages behind our symptoms, our struggles, and our healing. I'm your host, Lindsie, an ER nurse turned health coach, mindful eating advocate, and author of Healing Beyond the Diagnosis. Today's conversation is such a powerful one because we're diving into something that so many women experience, but don't always know how to put into words. Feeling disconnected from their bodies, stuck in overthinking, caught in self-sabotage, and unsure how to move forward. My guest today is Shauna Hawkes. Shauna is a women's embodied next chapter mentor, Gene Keys guide, and yoga instructor. She helps women break free from self-sabotage, reconnect with their bodies, and build the confidence to create joyful, fulfilling lives. Through somatic practices, the Gene Keys, and emotional healing, she supports women in returning to their inner wisdom and authentic power. In this episode, we talk about Shauna's deeply personal journey through trauma and healing, how embodiment can help women move out of fear and into trust, why so many women struggle to make decisions and stay stuck in cycles of self-doubt, and how practices like breathwork, nervous system regulation, and even the gene keys can open the door to deeper self-awareness and transformation. This is a beautiful conversation about healing, self-trust, and learning how to stop living only in your head and start reconnecting with the wisdom of your body. As a reminder, the content shared on PCOS Unfiltered is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests are not intended to serve as medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise, or treatment plan. The information shared is based on personal experience and expert interviews and is not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Now, let's get into it. Here is my conversation with Shauna Hawkes. Welcome to Shauna. Super excited to have you here. I think I'm going to learn some stuff today. So, so let's just kind of get started. So first, share your journey. I think everyone needs to hear your journey into embodiment work and how you began supporting women who feel stuck in cycles of overthinking or self-sabotage. Super, super important topic. So yeah,
Mm.
go ahead.
It's a big question to start off. Let's see. Well, look, I came from a background that was hardly traditional. I came from a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse in many different ways. Having a mother who was very suicidal when I was growing up, and very sick, and a father who was paranoid schizophrenic who was sexually abusive and tried to kill me, and then my mother got into a homosexual relationship with a narcissist who was a homicide detective turned trauma therapist. So it's a cocktail for some
Wow.
magical trauma. Let's just put it that way. And I think through just that experience that I had growing up and the confusion of everything that was happening, it sort of sent me into a bit of a mind spin. So I started to really overanalyze everything and not trust myself or trust my body because I couldn't really trust myself because I couldn't trust anyone else. I didn't really know what was going to happen in any moment. And so yeah, there was a lot of doubting, and a lot of fear. A really jacked nervous system, I would say, like a very out of balance in my nervous system, and that took many years to heal. And it was a slow and gradual process for me. It started when I went to college and I decided to study social work. And they said, well, one of the requirements is that you've actually got to go see a psychotherapist at the college. And I was like, okay. And, thinking it was going to be no big deal. And then 4 years later, I was still in therapy. And, and that was a beautiful start to my journey. And then the mind can only do so much, and then you've got to go through the body. And so uh just to keep the story fairly short, I went through a lot of different modalities, studied a lot of different things, but I found yoga when I came to Australia, and that really changed my life because I realized how angry I was. I was in the yoga room and I was just hating everything. I realized I hated the smell. I didn't like the way people breathed. I didn't like what the teacher was saying. I hated the heat. And then it was like this theme that I hated everything. And then I realized, oh man, I actually hate life. And that was the first time I had that realization that there was this deep anger within me that was being brought to the surface. And really, I was the only one that was going to be able to change that. So that was the moment I sort of moved from victim to then, how am I going to create a different life? And yeah, and then I started to make some changes, and I continued to evolve. And I still continue to evolve, and that's why I do the work that I do now, because I've been on the journey. I've been there. So I know what it's like to be a victim, and I also know what it's like to struggle and to be challenged in many different ways. And it's also not an excuse, Before it was an excuse, and now it's just an opportunity for to be a creator and create. I believe, anyone can have a life that they love if they choose that. So I
Mhm.
really try and empower and encourage women to step into their bodies and to start trusting themselves, even if they've never done it before.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you said something so great there, with using it as an opportunity because I mean that's kind of a theme on this
Mm,
on this podcast
mm,
and choosing to actually go beyond that and not be defined by that or limited by that, so whether that's the diagnosis of PCOS or a trauma from your past or anything else, you chose to heal and to keep going, on the journey and understanding probably also that it's not linear, right? There's probably
mm-hmm,
lots of ups and downs along the way.
mm,
Um, so yeah, that's thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Um, I mean, yes, many women also with PCOS struggle, with the stress, the emotional side of things over, being overwhelmed by so many things, past traumas, and they kind of feel disconnected from their bodies. So, how does embodiment and feminine energetics help create emotional and hormonal balance?
Mm. Well, when we talk, femininity, it's not just females. It's we all have this part of us that's feminine, and this part of us that's masculine. But I truly, what I've witnessed over and over again, and in my experience in my own life, is that women live in their masculine more than they balance out and live in their feminine. And the feminine is about this softness and this receiving, this surrender to life, this trust in and this orientation in life that everything is happening exactly as it's meant to happen. And there's no pushing needed. There's no forcing needed. You don't have to figure anything out. Actually, you could just sit back and receive life, and life will sort you out, exactly as it wants to and exactly as it's meant to. But if if the nervous system is out of balance, which is usually what you're speaking to, and I would
Mm,
assume that this is happening a lot for women with this condition, is it's just not a relaxed nervous system. So it's very hard to receive life and to relax into life and to surrender into things if you don't trust life. And so there's this element of noticing the pushing. I mean, because I think everything starts with awareness. Just start to observe yourself and notice, when am I pushing? When am I forcing? When am I not taking deep breaths? And that's a really big thing, is whenever the breath is shallow, the nervous system is out of balance. And so it's like,
mhm,
just by stopping several times a day and learning how to breathe deeply can be hugely beneficial for noticing This is a way I can slow down. This is a way I can receive. And just encoding that, I trust the process of life. I trust the unfolding as it's happening. And I don't think it's a quick fix, but I think that everything is changed through repetition. And if you commit to this repetition of taking deep breaths and of saying that you trust the process of life or that you can receive, then life will unfold for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You speak often about learning to trust your body, like you just said, and your inner wisdom. So, what does that actually look like in practice? And how can
Mm.
women begin rebuilding that trust? So, what's the action step? What's the kind of the first step in rebuilding that?
Make a decision. So a lot of women don't know how to make a decision. They're always second guessing themselves. Just make a decision and then back yourself and stop thinking about whether you made the wrong decision. There is no wrong decision. I don't believe you can make mistakes. I believe life is just happening, and many women specifically go, but what if I choose wrong? And I'm like, but you can't choose wrong. Like you can only choose learning in this life. So,
Mm.
but the reason why self-sabotage occurs is because no decision gets made. Like it's like there's just this circling. Well, make a decision and go and follow that pathway, and then life will show you whether it's the right pathway or not. It'll go yep or no. So just make a decision. Just just follow the decision, and then when the mind gets quite busy, then you want to use tools to get back into the body, like taking those deep breaths and saying, I trust life, or, I'm confident to make decisions, or I can't make any mistakes, and encoding through repetition again that idea that it's all available and I can relax, but you must make a decision. You must take one step. You can't just sit here with life and go, I mean, I talked about before about femininity and receiving, and I
Mm.
believe that, but you also make a decision and then you receive what life gives you. So it's like there's two parts of that coin. You're not just sitting back and allowing life to necessarily, like, you're not asking for things and then not actually taking any action. There's an action step and then there's a receiving. So there's the masculine, which does, and then there's the feminine that receives the doing, right? So it's
Mm.
that balance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so powerful, taking the first step. I mean, it seems to might seem easy, but what do you find might be the hardest part in doing for women to actually, do that, to take that first
Mm.
step? Like, what is there anything that you find like obstacles that might be blocking them from actually making that decision?
The fear of making a mistake. Um, like there's this big, it's often it's unconscious. We're not aware that the reason we're not taking the step is because we're afraid that we're going to make a wrong decision. But as
Mm.
soon as we can get out of the mindset that there are wrong decisions or that there's a bad or a good, because that's very duality, like, and our world, I feel, functions on that way. It's like right, wrong, good, bad, yes, no. But it's like there's lots of gray and there's lots of in between. And life can't show up for you if you don't, if you're stuck in that, I got to make the right decision or I've made the wrong decision. Just, it's like make the decision and then life will show you, it will open another door, and then you make another decision, or it will close the door, and then you go, yeah, well, I just learned that that wasn't the way that was going to support me. And I'm not even going to say the wrong way because it's not the wrong way. It was a learning opportunity so you could see what you don't want because the soul desires something. And we then take a step towards what the soul is asking, and then we will get the feedback from life. Is this where I continue or do I go another way? So, um, yeah, that's how I feel about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's beautiful. It makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I tell my clients, you have to do something, even
Mhm.
the smallest little thing. Like, you don't have to tackle everything all at once, just do something. Because when we have that all or nothing mentality, like you said, you're stuck. You're not taking that first step. Nothing changes. Um, so yes, I love how you put that.
Mm.
You are also a Gene Keys guide, so I'm super excited to hear more about this. So how can the Gene Keys help women better understand their emotional patterns, any triggers and just pathways to healing?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love the Gene Keys because it's been so transforming. There's been a lot of systems or a lot of modalities that have been transforming, but this one has a special hold on my heart because it's ever evolving, and it's ever evolving because it's you learn through contemplation, not through knowledge. So. Um, many people are used to going and studying something and they learn the knowledge and then they go and do it. And this is a wisdom. And wisdom is so different from knowledge because wisdom is this constant learning and evolving, and it's a deep inner awareness. So I think the first thing was the Gene Keys. I was drawn to it because it's through compassion that you heal. It's not through self-judgment and sabotage. And so it was this very loving and beautiful system. Now, that being said, when I first came across this system, all I looked at was my shadows because that's my tendency, is to go towards what's wrong and how can I fix it versus what's beautiful and how great it is, and I'm constantly aware of that in myself. But it's a system that was designed by a man called Richard Rudd, and I would call it more like a divine download. And it's based on astrology and human design and the I Ching. So the I Ching is a Chinese book called the Book of Changes. It has 64 hexagrams, and the gene keys have 64 genes, like so gene keys. And it's called the Gene Keys, Gene, because it's based on your genetic makeup. So it's how the genes that were given to you, and life then brings those genetic codes to life. And so the more awareness you have about these genetic codes, the more you can change your genes. And that's why it's so cool, is we're talking about going beyond just a mental concept and actually into the body, into embodiment, and shining light on the cells. So if we're talking specifically to the women that you work with, right? Dude, get into this, start looking this stuff up because it has a potential for great change, okay? In a way that you probably won't expect. Now, Richard Rudd studied under Ra, who was the creator of human design, and he sat in his class for years in the back of the classroom, never ever wrote one note down, just absorbed. He just absorbed all the information. He just took it in. And then, and he's still good friends with Ra, or he was always good friends with Ra. And it got to a point where it felt like there was a limitation there was a limitation with human design, which was that there wasn't space for contemplation and this real softness and this heart opening. It was like, this is the way you're designed and this is the way it will be. And he felt like that there was something more beyond that. And so he got this download for these keys. And it's fascinating when you look at your chart. So you can go onto genekeys.com and you can just click on free profile and you can just type in your birth details and you will get a free chart. And the detail that is in there will absolutely transform your life. So just start there. Just go there and start there. And essentially in every key you've got 11 main keys, and in the keys you've got a shadow, a gift, and an acidic state. And the shadow is what happens when you're in fear. So when we go into fear, this is our defense pattern. So whenever we feel threatened, then that is that word. That is the word. So there's 11 of them that we go to.
Mm.
So for example, one of mine would be seriousness. Okay. I have a shadow of seriousness. If I feel fear or if I feel threatened, I will get very serious. Okay. So yeah. And the gift is freshness. Like there's this ability that to move from using this gift into this actual gift state. Okay. So we look at the shadows, we start by seeing the shadows, and we notice that this is when we're in fear. And then when we relax the nervous system, right? And this is a big part. Every time I'm serious, I go, oh, Shauna, you're so good at your seriousness. Like you are so good at it. Like you have got this nailed. Like if anyone wanted to know about seriousness, they just come to you. And so I break up the frequency by calling myself out on it in a compassionate way, not in a judge. I'm not like, oh my God, here I go. I'm down the serious track, right? It's I break up the energy and then I go towards, the gift state, right? Like I go towards the delight and I go towards the ecstasy and I go towards these gifts that I have. So it's the shadow that brings you the gift. And so we want to lean into our gifts, and the gifts are here, what we're here to bring the world. And what's cool with the gene keys is there's three parts to it. And the first is the activation. So it's sort of like, this is what you're here for. This is probably what most people know about you. This is probably what you know about yourself. And then we go into the Venus sequence, and this is all about your relationship and your defense patterns. And this is huge when you realize, oh, wow, these are my defense patterns in my closest relationships. And this is how I show up. And these are my gifts. And then the final stage is prosperity. How do you best prosper? Are you really good one-on-one? Are you really good in groups of people? Are you meant to be on a stage? Are you meant to be in a managerial role? And this is, I'm speaking very generalized. The Gene Keys doesn't say you're going to be a nurse and you're going to work with
Mhm.
PCOS, right? But it says you're here to bring light, or you're here to bring ecstasy, or you're here to bring forgiveness, or you're here, this is what you're here for, and use the tool of your life as a vehicle for that. And so I love it because it's really focusing on your gifts and what your potential is. And the work that I do one-on-one with women is I can point out a shadow and you can go, yeah, and then the system can point out a shadow and then you go, whoa. And it's a separate reflection, because otherwise it's Shauna telling Lindsie what I'm observing, and then you look at the system and the system says the same thing, and you go, oh, okay, maybe I'll pay attention now. And so see, it shifts something because there's this backing of it. Um, and yeah, that's why I'm passionate about it, because it has this really beautiful power for transformation that can be created in your life. So yeah, now I work with people one-on-one, just going through their gene keys if they want to just look at
Mhm.
their chart and ask questions and learn more about it. And but I also use it very intimately in my mentorship. So when I start with a woman, we do their gene keys first, because I want them to be aware of their shadow patterns and what their defense patterns are before we even do the work. So when it comes up, I could just call it out and I say, oh, you notice that's coming up right now. So we'll just, and we speak to it like it's like, oh, that's okay. But we're just noticing that that's coming up. And we're also going to go towards the gift instead of staying in the fear.
Mhm. Uh, it seems like, so knowing what I know about human design, it almost seems like this might be more of the application
Yes.
piece to it. Because I've always asked that about human design, is I was like, okay, this is great knowledge. And I feel like, you can apply it to some extent, but it's kind of at the same time, I'm almost like, okay, what do you do with it now? You learn more about yourself, which is great. But this almost seems like, tell me if I'm wrong, like this is more applying some of those principles and like, specifically like you're saying, the gifts and some of those things that you can get from your chart.
Well, you're in constant contemplation. So you're in constant awareness of yourself. So you go, oh, there I am doing that thing. There I am being reactive. So, two of my shadows are reaction and intolerance. Oh, those come out
Mm,
really quick, like just put me in a heated situation and straight away. And
mm,
when they come up, it's just like I see them, and then I just breathe, and then I go, and then I'm like, I get to remind myself, of what are the gifts of those?
mhm,
What are the gifts of these? And so yes, it's constantly, and the more that you can see these things, the more it can transform your life. But you change through contemplation and compassion. We don't change through knowledge. You can know everything about yourself. It's not going to change your life. It's not. But this is going to change your life if you contemplate it, if you have compassion for yourself, if you regulate your nervous system, yeah, it'll really change your life because you'll be able to see yourself. No, like the things that trigger you, you'll be able to clearly see them and have a word for it. Oh, that's reaction. Oh, that's intolerance. Oh, I feel dislocated, right? And you can look at these things and you can go, that's what that is. I've been experiencing it my whole life. That was the biggest for me. It was I saw the shadow of entropy. And it goes to the gift of freshness and the acidic state of ecstasy. And I was like, and entropy is like this deep, almost like darkness that comes from a lack of creativity. So it's like this desire within us to be creative and to be evolving, and yet there's something that kind of just is like I was like I can't do it. And this is the experience I've had over and over and over in my life. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, yes. Finally, I get why I've been experiencing this for my whole life. It was actually in the design, and then life just brought that to the surface for me. The circumstances in my life brought that up. And so now when I see that, I go, I feel the entropy and I go, something good's coming. Something good's coming. The creativity is coming. You see? So yes, I would say it's very like it's every day if you want it to be. And there'll be
Wow.
moments where you study it a lot and then you'll go months without looking at anything. And then something will happen and you'll kind of go, ooh, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah,
And I would assume, I mean, it would probably help you in other relationships as well,
absolutely.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether that's spouse, children, other family members, friends, whoever, coworkers.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
actually have all my kids' charts and my husband's charts, all over my board. And it's a wonderful way to accept and receive them as they are. And so I use this analogy, my husband and I have the same keys in the way that we interact. Okay, so we're both what we call 5 1s, which is a fixer in our mind. We're always trying to create solutions, and in our body, it's a introspective, a deep dive. We love to investigate and learn a lot. And so it's quite easy to have a marriage. We've been together, married for, almost 18 years now, and it's easy because we are always talking in a way that is communicating, let's find a solution. And then in our bodies, we'll both be on the couch, but separate ends studying our own thing, right? But see, my son, he thrives in being around people. So he's going to feel safest to be around people. So it's quite interesting because I feel safest when I withdraw and I have my own space. I
Mm.
feel really connected to others, even in my own space. But yet he's the opposite and he feels most alive when he's connected. So here, my husband and I go to opposite ends of the couch and he goes and plops himself right next to us because that's how he feels connected. And so that's a really beautiful way to be able to work with, I think, your children as well, learning about my daughter and the way she functions and how brilliant she is, but how she will experiment through life, and so yes, 100% I agree with what you're saying, and I think it's a beautiful tool, but I think always start with yourself first. Just do the
Yeah.
work on yourself first, but have that awareness because it will absolutely transform your relationships for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you walk us through a practical tool or maybe a somatic practice that someone could use today,
Mm,
if they want to
mm,
start with something immediately to just feel more grounded, clear, connected, to themselves?
mm. I know it sounds simple, but set your alarm for every 3 hours. And every time the alarm goes off, just stop whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, and just take 1 minute to just focus on only your breathing. So just deep breath in and a long breath out. And just do that for 1 minute and do that every 3 hours. And that's too much, start with 6 hours. Or if that's too little, do every hour. But um, I really truly believe that we heal when we're present and when we're really in our bodies, and the only way to do that is to stop moving and just take that moment and just reconnect
Mm.
to the breath, right? Because the breath breathes us all night long. We don't go to sleep going, hey, breath, can you breathe me all night long? But it does, right? And we wake up and we're alive.
Hmm.
And so there's this beautiful potential and this life force that lives in all of us. And so that's a beautiful way just to slow the nervous system and to come into what is actually present, which is just you and your breath. And then everything else is just a story. And then you can go back into that as soon as you're done with your breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I usually tell people to do it around a meal,
Mm,
because if they associate it with something, but I love what you were saying, set the alarm. I mean, I know like the Apple Watches, some devices have like reminders, that you can set for every so often or apps,
mm,
too. So there's plenty of stuff out there,
mm,
but yes, again, just taking that first step to do it, even if it is just once a day to start, and
mm.
then progressing from there.
Absolutely.
For women that are listening who feel stuck in self-sabotage or unable to create momentum in their lives, what is the first step you would encourage them to take?
Mm. Get support. I mean, we're not here to do life alone. And there's other people who have been on your journey. It may not look the same, but we all have the same experiences of fear or feeling stuck or um, whatever that looks like. And so if you don't know what to do, then just take one step and and reach out to someone who has a life that you want.
Mm.
Do not reach out and do not ask for
Yeah.
advice from someone who does not have a life that you want. So many women go and ask for advice from people who they don't live a life that they want. So I say, well, go and, like I always say to women, if you want to work with me, make sure you want a life that I live, which is doing what I want whenever I want with whoever I want,
Mm.
make sure that you want that. So when you're really stuck, when you really don't know what to do, find a person and just start the conversation. Ask the like just ask, explain, I'm feeling stuck. Any can you offer me anything? Can you and just start there because sometimes when we're stuck, it's because we're not making that decision, right? We just don't know what to do. So we freeze sometimes or we overdo or whatever our response is to that. And so yeah, I would say just find someone that you admire or someone that you know that could be helpful or and just reach out. Say, this is how I'm feeling.
Mm.
And then just let the energy sort of build from there. But don't do it alone. That's probably the because then you're being a victim. I mean, I'm just going to be really honest. You're being a victim. You're staying
Mm.
stuck and you're complaining about it, but you're not willing to actually reach out and that's going to heal you when you ask the questions and then you will get the momentum to build whatever it is that you need to build to come out of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah. I'm gonna take it one step further because yes, you can be a victim with the wrong support,
Yeah.
too. I mean, I don't know if you see it, but I see it a lot, especially with social media now. And it's like one person is the victim alone
Mhm. Mhm.
and saying all these things, and then it can spiral into so many others jumping on board with that. And so
Mhm.
yes, you have to find, like you said, the right kind of support, the right person
Mhm.
that's living the life that you want.
Mhm.
Um, to support you on that journey. I don't know if you see that a lot as well with people that might be leaning on the wrong people to actually truly help
Mhm.
them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Last question is how
Mhm.
can people find you and connect with you? I'll link everything in the show notes as well, but I still like you
Mhm.
to put it out
Yeah.
there for everybody.
Yeah. My website's probably the easiest way to get to me. It sort of explains, yeah, what I do with the Gene Keys and yeah, the mentorship that I work and I speak on stages as well and run yoga retreats and things. So it's all available there. Like whatever but yeah, don't like feel free to just reach out and have a conversation if you want to just have a conversation. And I've got a little quiz which is what is your crossroads archetype, and that can be kind of fun to realize a little bit more about yourself. But yeah,
Awesome.
that's the easiest way. So ShaunaHawkes.com, and yeah, I'm on social media, not super active, but Shauna Embodiment Mentor on Instagram is probably the easiest way. So yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Great conversation. Thank you so, so much for taking the time to be here and share your story and everything that you're doing. I love it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCOS Unfiltered. I hope this conversation with Shauna Hawkes encourages you to slow down, reconnect with your body, and remember that healing is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to yourself. Whether you've been stuck in overthinking, self-sabotage, fear, or simply feeling disconnected from your body, I hope this episode reminded you that trust can be rebuilt one small step at a time. One of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that healing doesn't always begin with doing more. Sometimes it begins with pausing, breathing, becoming aware, and choosing to listen differently. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with a friend, take a screenshot and tag us on social media, or leave a review so more women can find these conversations and start their own healing journey. You can connect with Shauna at shaunahawkes.com, and I'll make sure all of her information is linked in the show notes for you. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you on the next episode of PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, Heal, Thrive.